What's happening, everybody? Gordie Tamayo here, and we are going to get into some tips that'll level up your content game. Let's get it. Hey everybody, we know how difficult it can be, especially in this high-paced, high-stakes, highly competitive game of content creation. So whether you are somebody that's working in the corporate sector, small business, and you are trying to figure out just how to get your content in front of people, and how to set yourself apart from the masses, hey, I want to give you 5 quick tips on how to level up your content game and garner content supremacy. You ready? Number 1, you gotta have a target, right? So I'm gonna say content aim. Without an intentional target, it's not just very likely, it's highly likely that you're going to miss. So we have to understand, what is the intention of the content that you are creating? Are you creating the content to entertain somebody, to educate them, to inspire them, to motivate them? There has to be a determined reason for why it is that you are creating the content that you're creating. It kind of sounds weird to even ask that question, but you'd be surprised how many of us don't quite ask the question of what's the intention and the purpose of the content that I'm creating. Number 2, the type of content. Now, it's really easy to kind of turn into a one-trick pony. We get really comfortable in a particular space and we kind of stay in that lane. And while there is some reasons to do that, and there is some success that can accompany that, you don't want to get so far stuck in a particular area or a particular lane that you overlook some of the other types of content that could really benefit you and attract audiences on various platforms that maybe you didn't even know were there. And so we're talking about everything from photography to audio to written to video. And obviously each one of these types of media has its own pros, has its own cons, and it resonates with audiences differently on different platforms. But you definitely don't want to negate one over the other. Number 3, content tools. Most people get very intimidated by content tools that are out there. One of the first things that people think of when they start thinking of content creation is they might think of the Adobe suite, and they're like, oh, that's strictly for the 10, 20 year professional who's been doing graphic design and doing video editing, etc. for many years. And that's not the case. There are so many tools that are out there now. Now, while the Adobe suite is kind of the premier suite for creatives, there are other ones that have came out that are built around the novice experience, and there's so many cool features within these new tools that even the most basic beginner that has a minimal understanding of how to use these tools can figure it out and create some stunning architecture within it. We're talking about tools such as Canva, Adobe Express, Grammarly, iMovie, things like this that will really help you create the content you're looking for, and a lot of it you can do it on the fly and on your phone. That's another overlooked thing as well, our phones. People think that you got to go out and have a fancy DSLR and you got to do all these different things in order to get your content right. And while that can be a goal to have down the road, that's not necessarily the thing that you need to be focused on from the get-go. You got to work with what you got, right? You got to be resourceful. And the one thing that most of us have is a cell phone. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to be created. Number 4, content flow. I like to say that if content is king, then consistency keeps it on top of the throne. And that's true, because you can have a highly resonating piece of content, but if you only hit them once and you come back a year later, it doesn't do you much good. You got to keep in front of your people. Increasing your volume of content over time helps you to become more effective than if you just come out the gate running and then you don't even do anything for such a long time thereafter. So you got to set some reasonable expectations for yourself up front. Most people think that they can just come out, blast 10, 20 pieces of content out front, or I've seen this recently too. People that get product photography and they have like 50 phenomenal photos and they just dump them all at once on a post. And it might seem like a good idea because you're sharing it with the world and you're excited about your product, etc. But the thing that you're overlooking is that one post could have turned into 50, right? Could have turned into 100, depending on how you chop it up, how you repurpose it, etc. We got to think about how exactly your content is going to be dripped out. And I look at that as like a faucet. If you just bust that thing open wide and the water's flowing out, like eventually people are going to have too much to be able to drink. You got to slowly release the faucet and let people absorb based on what they can take. And it also helps you pivot when you realize certain things just aren't resonating with your audience the way that you hope for. Number 5, content collabo. So many people want to just Lone Ranger it and go Rambo doing this thing on their own. But the reality is, doing things in collaboration with others is so much more effective. You got twice the brain power, or however many people are involved in it. You have twice the creativity. It also helps fill the deficiencies that you got as well. All right, y'all. So that's my 5 tips to content supremacy. 5 tips that'll take your content to the next level. Get your game up. Number 1, you gotta have an aim. You gotta have a target. Number 2, you gotta explore different media types. Number 3, you gotta work with the tools that are available and the tools that are out there that you got. Number 4, you gotta consider your content flow and come up with the game plan behind it. And number 5, you gotta have some collabo in place. Don't be intimidated by others' skill set. Somebody's got something that's 10 times better than you as far as their skill level and what they bring to the table. Take that, learn from it, and likewise reciprocate that with whatever you're bringing to the table as well. My hope is that this was useful to you, educational. If you liked it, please subscribe so we can keep on bringing you new content like this.